Hey guys, this is Charmaine Marie, and I am back with another message. So today I'm going to be talking about telling your story, because your story is important, right? So even David in Psalm 71, 17 and 18, David says, since my youth, God has taught me, and to this day, I declare his marvelous deeds, right? So even when I was old, even when I'm old and gray, David said, do not forsake me, my God, till I declare your power to the next generation, that your mighty acts to all who are to come, right? Plug this up for me. Hold on, you guys. Let me charge my phone. Plug this up, please. Go ahead and make sure it's in there. So this is what David said, y'all. David was like, since my youth, God, you have taught me. And that was my story. That is my story. That since my youth, God, he is the one that has taught me, you know. And so this is why I talk about my story. I teach you guys how to break free from generational curses. And I talk about pulling down strongholds and breaking free from addiction. You know what I'm saying? So I talk about these things because, you know, I have to declare God and his marvelous deeds, right? I have to declare his power to the next generation and all of his mighty acts to all who are to come, right? So David, he knew this. He was like, you know what? I'm going to tell my story. He knew his story was important, okay? So everyone on the earth, y'all, has a story, and it's power in your story. God gave me the power of your story way back in 2015 when he was giving me my outreach ministry, which is Rainbows of Hope, right? So whether you realize it or not, your story, it is an instrument by which you speak to the next generation, right? So we speak, we tell of the testimonies of God. We talk about the goodness of him and his deeds, his marvelous acts, right? So if you want to have a positive impact on the future generation, what do? All you have to do is just tell your story. That's it. Psalm 71 is not attributed to a specific biblical author, but since it's connected to Psalm 70, right? It is believed that Psalm 71 was also written by David. Now in Psalms, King David, he prayed. He had prayed to God. It was a plea to God for an opportunity. He wanted an opportunity to speak to the next generation so that he could declare God's power to them, right? Thereby giving them a testimony of the creator of the universe. So David, he had been walking with the Lord for a long time, way even before he had penned that Psalms, right? And as he walked with God, and as you walk with God, your story, it develops, right? Your story, it changes. The chapters of the book or the story, they always changing, because you should always be changing, right? You should always be evolving. You should always set new goals, new dreams, have, new aspirations, all right? Daily. You should be doing something daily, right? Daily in your walk with God. So you grow in your walk with God as you progress on your spiritual journey with the Lord, right? So listen, his story, it developed. It continually developed, right? So in beseeching God, right, for an opportunity, y'all, to speak to the next generation, because David, he wanted to declare, his might to the next generation, as it's written in Psalm 71. David is essentially saying, man, I have got an amazing story to tell, right? So that would actually be one of the understatements of history, because David, his testimony, it was a crucial part of the story of modern Israel, right? Now, David's prayer for a transgenerational ministry, okay? Through the story about the marvelous deeds that he witnessed God perform throughout his life so far, God was highlighting three elements in David's story, right? He highlighted timing. He also highlighted teaching, and he highlighted testimony, right? Because the timing, it was the timing. David, he spoke during the season of his life when he was older. He was talking about from, He said, since my youth, God has taught me. He was older. So you can see that God was dealing with the timing in David's story. It was the timing of the text. So we can't be sure about David's exact age, but we can tell that he was in the twilight season of his life. He was an old man. He was a mature man. He wasn't a shepherd boy no more, David, you know. He's not the little kid, you know, going after the bear. So no longer the boy, he was no longer, the boy who took on the lion. He was not the teenager with the 5 smooth stones, right? And the slingshot who took out Goliath. He wasn't that anymore, David. He was seasoned. David, he was seasoned. He was an elderly saint. So yet he sees and he prays for more years and for more time. Lord, give me another shot, you know. So we talk about this particular story because it was all in the timing, you know. So he was like, give me another shot, God. You know, we're going to rise up. It's time to take a shot. We're going to rise up. It's time to take a shot. Like David, you know, he was not a rapper, but yet in his prayer, he said, Lord, I still have time. That's what he was saying. I still got another chance, God, to take a shot, you know. So he was an older man, David, and, you know, he wanted to tell his testimony, his story to the next generation, the up and coming kingdom leaders. You know what I'm saying? So he basically, David, he was older, you know, and both he and I would qualify for the senior saints, right? So listen, I'm talking about this story because when he was speaking this prayer from an interesting perspective of 3 viewpoints here, right? David, he looked back to see where he was, right? And that is turf upon which he has already trodden. So he was looking back to see where he was. He looked around to see where he is, okay, in the here and the now. And he looked forward to see where he was going with God, wherever God may have taken him in the future. You know what I'm saying? Or may take him in the future. So by these 3 perspectives, David, he was taking us on a journey of his own life, you know. It was a brief synopsis of his life. It was that's what he was doing. He began from his own birth. He was talking about his story. From birth, he said, I have relied on you. You know, he says, you brought me forth from my mother's womb. I will ever praise you. So he was saying, God, from birth, you have had your hand on me now. Just like God, he's had some of his hands on you. He's had his hand on you your whole life from birth, from your mother's womb. You know what I'm saying? So this was the process of a midwife delivering a child, you know. He said, you are he who took me from my mother's womb. David, he points a picture, right, of his birth as though God himself was the one who actually delivered him from his mother's womb. So the implication is that David is alive. He has survived all. Okay, he has. Because God has had his hand on David all the days of his life, right? So, you know, back then, premature births and deaths at birth were not at all unusual. So sometimes the mother died at the birth of her baby. You know, so my mother, she almost died having me. You know what I'm saying? And this is why she didn't have any more children. From her story and the things that she has told me about, you know, from the time I was born, you know. So sometimes the mother died at the birth of her baby. And sometimes both the mother and the child even perished in the process, y'all, you know, back in the day, right? So because deaths at birth were not unusual, David doesn't take his own birth in this particular prayer. He didn't take it lightly. He didn't take it for granted. You know what I'm saying? It was the timing, y'all, of David's story. And he said, you were there. You had your hand on me, God, since I came from my mother's womb. So in other words, David was saying, I'm not here by accident. So this was the key concept. You know, God, he had his hand on David from the very beginning of his life when God brought him forth from his mother's womb. So, you know, this was, you know, it was deep because he understood God's role and his position in his life. He's like, God, you had your hand on me since, you know, from my mother's womb. That's what he was saying, you know. So God, he used this particular story, you know, in a unique way to bless countless people. So there's many stories out there, y'all. Think about other women that have had, hold on. I had to sneeze. So think about countless of other women, you guys, who have, you know, basically, hold on. Oh, I didn't want to be on camera, y'all, sneezing like that. So think about other, countless women, you know, or a mother that was carrying her baby in the womb and she tried to maybe abort her child, you know. But the abortion failed, you know. Some women, they try a second time. And the attempt may be unsuccessful again. So, you know, like David, this testimony, it shows how God had his hand on his life, you know. David, he didn't have to be here on earth. He could have gone from the room straight to heaven. But God, he had a plan, y'all. He had a purpose, just like God got a plan and a purpose for your life, you know. So even though people daily, they try to plan to, you know, abort their children, you know, a killing was planned or is planned daily, you know, when people go to the abortion clinics, y'all. But let me tell you, some of those babies, they still come forth from that which was intended for death. You know what I'm saying? So, some people are marked for death, you know. When they go, their moms or mothers go to the abortion clinic. But God, he declares, y'all, in the word, he said, you shall not die, but you shall live and declare the works of the Lord. You should tell your story. So King David, y'all, he had a story. You got a story. Yo, it's power in your story, right? So his powerful testimony is that he made it all the way. He might not have made it, but God had his hand on David from the time when he was a strapping young kid all the way through his, you know, elder years, okay? Right into right old age. He had a powerful living testimony of his life. So just like God had his hand on David, David lived and he grew, he learned, he experienced, okay? He accomplished and he prospered. David, he made it, okay? Just like you gonna make it, because it's power, y'all, in your story, right? So likewise, your testimony, you know, is that you didn't have to be here, but you are. You here. God sent you here on the earth. Which means that your testimony, it goes all the way back to your birth. Just like my testimony go all the way back to my birth. Because you're not here by accident, right? You are on earth by divine design. Okay? This is why you're on earth. You're placed here by a graceful God for a purpose. God sent you here for a purpose. You got work to do. Okay? So David says, he says, from my birth, you have had your hand on me, God. Okay. Then he says, from my youth, okay, my confidence has been in you. From my youth, from my teenage years, the crazy seasons of my life, right? The years when nobody could tell me anything, right? Because you knew everything. You thought you knew everything. You knew it all. You were the bomb, right? You was the bomb.com. The king on the hill. The king of the hill, I mean, the author of your own life. Okay, you was the author of your own life. Even me, I didn't prophesy my whole life. I didn't prophesy my life up until now. I didn't prophesy it. So this is what God was saying. And the world was your oyster. And you made certain choices, right? Just like many of you made certain choices, okay? Many which you later may have wished you never made. Because one day in your future, you will finally come to understand, right? That those choices did not represent, okay, who you really wanted to be. So the legacy that you have been weaving and the examples, okay, that you have been setting for the next generation were not what you wanted to represent, okay? And what you got through it all was exactly what David, through his crazy seasons too. God's grace alone. He said, from my youth, from my teenage years. And this is my testimony. Because my life used to be crazy in my teenage years, y'all. God, but he had his hand on me. Even when I didn't want to hear about God, he still had his hand on me. In my youth, okay? I learned that God was my hope in my youth, okay? In my youth. And so, and the Hebrew word for hope is the same word, y'all, for rope. So David's testimony is that in his crazy years of his life, he learned that God was his rope, okay? Not too much that God was the rope. Not so much, that God was the rope and David held on to him, but that God, it was God. He was the rope. He was the one who held on to David. It was nobody but God that held on to you, you know? So have you ever let go of that rope? Because I remember I did. I let go of the rope, right? Which was God. I had let him go. All right? So have you also ever been so crazy or lost hope to the point that you tried to cut your own rope? Okay? Because David said when he was crazy enough to turn from God or to let God go, he discovered that he could only go so far because his life was wrapped up, y'all. It was tied up. It was tangled up. Tethered to God because of his rope of love. What an assurance. What an assurance, you guys. So God, you know, when he yanked me out of the nightclubs, out of the wrong building, out of the wrong place at the wrong time, out of the wrong relationship, okay, and so forth, okay? So take a moment, y'all, and think about where would you be if God hadn't tugged you out of who knows where you shouldn't have been. Whether you were there accidentally or deliberately. Just think about it. Think about it. What if he had not yanked you out of the last place you were in that could have caused you some serious problems in your life? Think about it. What if he had not dragged you out of that last relationship you was in? Think about it. Think about it, y'all. Where would you have been if it had not been for the Lord that was on your side? So David, in Psalm 71, y'all, in verse 7, David was saying, Lord, when I was in my crazy youth, you held on to me. God, he already knew that, of course, but it was David the one that had to come to the realization that God was his hope, God was his rope, his tether, okay? And he was now processing, you know, it through the Psalms as he prayed. He said, Lord, you held on to me even when I tried to let go of you in them crazy times of my youth. It was many times when I tried to let go of God. But he loved me enough not to let me go. It's just like David's testimony. It's based on knowing him from your youth. And once I claim God as my Lord and Master, God, he latched onto me and then he refused to let me go. So David, he was looking at where he was in his life at the time that he wrote the song. And he tells God what he has learned. He said, you have taught me. You taught me. He said, and now that I'm old and gray, don't forsake me. So David, he was saying my success, at which so many people stand amazed at, okay? He said, it's because you are my mighty protector. This is what David was saying. It's as if David was saying, now I am as a wonder. A wonder. I was a little baby. I was a crazy teenager. But now I'm a wonder. I'm a wonder. And this is why I'm now a miracle. And David, he knew God. See, I knew God. I still know he's my protector. I know I'm highly protected by God, you know? And so David was saying that when people look at me now and they see my success, okay, all the player haters, this is what he was saying. He was saying, they stand amazed, God. They amazed because you're a wonder at how far you have come. They stand amazed. You know, what's that? I seen a post that said, the way you look when your one friend is now a success story that always struggled. You know what I'm saying? And this is what David was saying. They tried to count me out a long time ago, God. But David declared they didn't realize that God had his hand on me. And that's how my extraordinary life becomes extraordinary. Because of the extra in God's power. So David, he was saying, I'm a miracle. Thanks to God. His holding power. Thanks be unto God for his holding power. And this is why now you are a wonder. You are a miracle. It's because of God. So some of y'all are miracles, and it's because God, he kept his hand on you. So when people look at you, they can't understand the success you have, okay? It's because they don't realize, okay, first of all, what a miraculous story you have to tell. That's the part they don't understand. And what does miracle mean? It means an extraordinary event manifesting divine intervention in human affairs. That's what it means. And God has done something in your life, in the natural realm, okay, that no one can explain. So, well, look at me now. Look at me now. Look at me now, you know. Because the point is that he who lives within you is greater than he who is out to get you. Nobody but God. So give God the glory in your story, because this is what David did. And then people, they will not only look at you differently, they'll look at God in a whole new light. They'll want some of whatever he did for you. They'll want it for themselves. Because see, they see you in a new light. They see you as the miracle. They see you as a wonder. You know what I'm saying? This is why people, they stand amazed when you talk about your story, when you tell some of the things that you've been through, because it's something that you just can't explain in the natural. Because you're a miracle. You're a miracle. You are the sign. You are the wonder. So this is why people, they stand amazed. And this is what David did, y'all. He was like, God, you have taught me since my youth. You know? David was like, I've learned some things in life. This is what the scripture was saying. I have learned how to go to war. I learned how to go to war. I learned some things. But let me tell you one thing about learning too. Okay? The learning part of the equation does not take place without the without the active involvement of the learner. So you have to be actively involved in the learning process when it comes to learning some things in life. When you understand how to go to war, it's a two-way street. See, God, he may be speaking right now, but are you listening? Because God, you can't always be talking to God and then he don't talk back to you. That don't make sense. That don't make sense. It's a two-way street. This is what David was saying. God has taught me, you know. God has allowed me to experience some things in this life. That's what, David was saying. He understood that the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But the third dimension, y'all, of being taught is experience, okay? To cause to learn, to teach war, to have experience. This means that when you say, Lord, you have taught me something, you are actually saying, God, you have allowed me to experience some things. God taught me, I learned, I applied, and God's purpose is now fulfilled, right? That's what David was saying. He said, God, you have taught me. I learned some things in my life. And this is why God, he was now talking about the miracle. He was telling the story, That's why when God, he bless you, he doesn't do it in secret. When God get ready to bless you, he prepares a table before you. Go back and watch my videos about going to war and eating at the table of God. Listen, y'all better listen. He sends out an invitation to all the haters who said that you would never be there. And when they see your success, they can't explain it. But listen, just tell them nobody but God. Nobody but God wrote this story, baby. I may have prophesied it, but he had the finishing touches, okay? He knew the end from the beginning. He knew that my latter days would be better than the former days. Come on now. Listen, tell them nobody but God. That's why I'm talking about the timing of David's story. When David, he said, listen, he looked back to where he was and he said in Psalm 71, 17 and 18, hold up now. He said, since my youth, God, you have taught me. And to this day, I declare your marvelous deeds. Even when I'm old and gray, do not forsake me, my God, till I declare your power to the next generation. He said, your mighty acts to all who are to come. Hold on, y'all. Let me get my Bible real quick. Because I want to talk about this for a minute. Bring me that other Bible. Listen to this. David wasn't playing. David was not playing. He said, nobody but God has taught me. I learned something. I learned how to go to war. Thank you. I was like, listen, David, hold on. Let me go to Psalm 71 in this book. David wasn't playing. David was not playing, y'all. He was serious, okay? David was like, look here, since my youth, That's been my testimony. O God, thou hast taught me from my youth, and hitherto have I declared thy wondrous works. Now also, when I am old and gray-headed, O God, forsake me not, until I have declared thy strength unto this generation, and thy power to everyone that is to come. I'm going to Isaiah 46:4. Hold on, y'all. Y'all go with me. Go get your Bible. Go read your Bible. And listen here. Somebody said, am I a preacher? No, I'm not a preacher. I just believe in the power of God. God sent his word, and he healed me through his word, and he delivered me from my destructions, okay? I'm not in the pulpit preaching, all right? Now, I don't believe in that part. I'm not a preacher. Let's not get it twisted. I know who I am in God. I teach you through my story how to break generational curses and pull down strongholds and to break free from addiction. I teach you how to receive angelic messages from your angels. Okay, I am an angelic healing practitioner. Okay, and listen here. I teach you how to co-labor with your angels so you can have heaven here on earth, because your angels are sent to serve you. Okay, and a lot of people, they don't realize it. They talk a lot about demonic activity, but you know, it's a lot of angelic activity going on right now around you that you can't even see. Okay, you can't even see it. Isaiah 46:4. And even to your old age, I am he, says God. And even to gray hairs, I will carry you. God said, even to gray hair, I will carry you. I have made you, okay? And I will bear. He said, even I will carry and will deliver. This is what he said. This is what the word of God said. He said, even to your old age, I am he, okay? I am he. He the one. Yep, God is the one. He's the one. For this God is our God forever and forever. He will be our guide, Guide, even unto death. Okay? This is in Psalms 48 and, listen, 14. He said he will be our guide, even unto death. Then when you go to Isaiah 58:13, let's go ahead and precept this. All right, listen. He said here, if thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, y'all listen to this. Hold up, cause see, this is the Sabbath day now. This ain't me talking. God didn't let us hear. He didn't let us hear. See. You don't know where God gonna lead you at. Especially, hold on. He said, okay. He said he will be our God even to death. Right? Let me get my other Bible here. Hold on. And the Lord shall guide thee continually and satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones. And thou shalt be like a watered garden and like a spring of water whose waters fail not. Okay? It says, and they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations. And thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach. Okay, this is God. He's speaking to me now. He said, you shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. He said, if thou turn away thy foot from thy Sabbath, from doing thy own pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Lord honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thy own ways, okay? Not doing thy own ways, nor finding thy own pleasure, nor speaking thy own words. He said, then shall thou delight thyself in the Lord, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken it. Y'all hear this? Y'all hear this? This is deep. Because see, God done led us, he done led us somewhere now. He done led us somewhere. Sure did. This is deep, y'all. So he said, he said it in Psalm 48, y'all, 14. He said it. I'm telling y'all, he will do it. He gonna perform that which he said he was gonna do. He said, for this God is our God forever and forever. Forever and forever, ever. Okay? He will be our God even unto death. Okay? So, there you have it. That's why David was saying, okay, in Psalm 71, y'all, David was saying this. Hold on, let me go here. David was like, look here. Oh God, thou hast taught me from my youth. God is the one who taught me from my youth. It was him. It wasn't nobody else. Wasn't nobody else here to show me the way. They wasn't there to help me. It was nobody but God. And so this is why David was like, I'm going to declare your marvelous acts to the next generation. The next generation, right? And then when you go to Deuteronomy 4 and 5, it says, but ye that did cleave unto the Lord your God are alive. You are alive. It says every one of you this day. Do y'all hear this? But I have taught you statutes and judgments. Even so the Lord my God commanded me. And then it says that ye should do so in the land, whether ye go to possess it. Listen, y'all. He said, keep therefore and do them. This is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, these people, they're going to say, surely this great nation is a wise and a understanding people. Listen, y'all. This is what it says. Deuteronomy, when you go to Deuteronomy 6 and 7, okay, it says here, and these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart. Thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thy house. I'm sitting in my house. Listen. And when thou walkest by thy way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. Come on now. He said, thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thy eyes. That's why you meditate on the word of God day and night, so you can be planted, okay? He said, and thou shalt write them upon the posts of thy house, and on thy gates. And it shall be, when the Lord thy God shall have brought thee into the land, listen to this, which he swore unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give thee great and goodly cities, which thou buildest not, okay? And houses full of all good things, which thou fillest not, and wells dig, which thou diggest not, vineyards and olive trees, which thou plantest not, when thou shalt have eaten and be full. It says, then beware, okay, lest thou forget the Lord, which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. He said, thou shalt fear the Lord thy God and serve him, and shall swear by his name. He said, ye shall not go after other gods, of the gods of the people which are around you. He said, for the Lord thy God is a jealous God among you, lest the anger of the Lord thy God be kindled against thee and destroy thee from off the face of the earth, y'all. He said, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. He said, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy might. And these words which I command this day shall be in thy heart. Y'all hear this? Ye shall not tempt the Lord your God. He said, diligently keep the commandments of the Lord your God, his testimonies, his statutes, which he hath commanded thee. And we shall do what is right, which is right in the sight of the Lord, that it may go well with thee, that thou mayest go in and possess the good land which the Lord swore unto thy fathers. He said to cast out all thy enemies from before thee, as the Lord has spoken. Y'all see this? Y'all, I'm speaking. Listen, David said, he said, God has taught me from my youth. From my youth. God has taught me, and God has taught you. So that was a message, y'all, all in itself. God has taught you from your youth. So keep his commandments and do them till this day. Because you learned how to go to war. You've learned how to go to war. Now you just got to apply. You got to apply what you've been taught. What God taught you, you got to make sure you apply it. Apply it every day throughout your life. Every day. Listen, this is why I came. This is why I am has sent me. Okay? My goal is to help others become equipped with counter strategies. Okay? So you can overcome strongholds, generational curses, and addiction. I want others to become delivered by hearing and doing the word of God. That's it. That is it. So I'm going to be back, y'all. We're going to talk more about telling your story. We're going to talk more about telling your story. I love y'all. And make sure if you need help, okay, and you need somebody to talk to, I'm here. Book a 15-minute call with me. I'm going to link the description in the box below. Okay, in the description box below. Make sure y'all like, share, subscribe. Listen to some of my other videos. Listen to Going to War. Go back and listen to that video because you need resources for going to war. And then also, it's another video. I'm going to link it below. Let me think about it. And I'm going to post a link below, y'all. Y'all go back and watch it. Get the resources, get the information, and make sure you apply it to your daily life, okay? Because I'm teaching you counter strategies. I'm going to be back. I'm going to talk about the angels too, how to co-labor with your angelic army, okay? So you can have heaven here on earth, y'all. It is your birthright. Your angels are sent to serve you, okay? I love y'all. Y'all have a good day.